Hello, welcome to another edition of the Fifth Quarter. I'm Mike Ciarochi, sports editor of Herald-Standard.com, joined again by George Von Benko, author of Memory Lane and WMBS radio personality. We're here today to talk about, I guess you could call it a disheartening 23-20 loss to the Baltimore Ravens. I guess since it came to the last
well, stunning the way it all unfolded at the end.
Right. I'm not surprised that Baltimore managed to come in and win a game. I'm surprised at how it happened.
Yeah. The 92 yards against the Steeler defense, but there were so many things that transpired in that game that had an effect on this ball game. And I've never been one to get up on a soapbox and say that a team lost because of the officiating. But it was a contributing factor.
You know what? It
was a contributing factor.
I wrote my column in Herald-Standard.com today about that. The Walt Coleman crew did not call what to me was a blatant head-to-head, helmet-to-helmet contact from Ray Lewis.
And then they called the one on Ryan Clark,
which
was close, you know.
He was guilty. I mean, but my point is this: if you're going to call them both, or if you're not going to call them, don't call either one.
That's what Tunch Ilkin and Craig Wolfley both said to me. He says, if you're going to make the calls, be consistent.
Right.
That's all you ask. And when you're not consistent, then you open yourself up for criticism.
Yeah. Well, both players likely will be fined this week by the league. But it's kind of unfortunate because of the circumstances led to scores. Ray Lewis on Heinz Ward hit.
That would have been at the 12-yard line.
Well, it could have been a 1st and goal had they enforced the personal foul on Ray Lewis. And you think at least the Steelers have at least 3 cracks to get in the end zone.
And they took the catch away. They took the catch away.
Made it a 4th and 7.
Yeah.
So they took 4 points away, let's say, from the Steelers. And the other one, the one that they called on Ryan Clark, put the Ravens in position for a 51-yard field goal at the gun.
So that's a 7-point turnaround.
Yeah.
If you look at it that way. But there were so many other things. I didn't like the official review. I mean, every time I've ever heard people, and I've talked to Dale Hamer about this, if the ball moves when you come down with a catch, it's not a catch. You don't have control of it.
Right.
The ball moved, and then Dixon caught, and that sets up,
Right. That's the play Tomlin challenged, I believe.
That's one. The one that he challenged and lost. And then there's the call on Ike Taylor, which really got the crowd going.
Yeah. Well, yeah, that was.
Well, my question was, it was not a catchable ball. There was no way he was going to catch that ball.
Yeah.
You can't call it if you can't catch it.
Yeah.
And then I've heard several people, the William Gay thing. They thought that the Baltimore receiver pushed off a little bit.
Yeah, he may have.
Yeah. So, but that's not what cost them the game. They didn't execute in certain areas, and it cost them the game.
Right. And Mike Tomlin, if he were here, he would probably tell you, as I'm going to tell you. They didn't overcome the adversity, well enough. Overall, I think the Steelers played well enough to win the game, but it is the Baltimore Ravens, and you have to play better than they did. The key stat that you pointed out before the game, and I think I used it in my notebook for today's Herald-Standard.com, was the 3rd down efficiency by Baltimore. What was the stat?
They were 14 of 21. There are actually 2 stats. I think in Ravens history, it's one of the better marks they've ever had in their history on 3rd down conversion. But for the Steelers, that is the most 3rd down conversions. They flashed the stat on television. The most 3rd down conversions that the Steelers have allowed, percentage-wise, since the merger in 1970.
The highest percentage?
Highest percentage.
I thought you meant the most, meaning 14.
Well, it may be the most, but the
highest percentage, 67% was the highest.
I think it's the most conversions. I think that's
14.
14 3rd down conversions is the most the Steelers have allowed to a club since the merger in 1970.
Yeah, and
they just couldn't get off the field.
Right, and Mike Tomlin said it after the game. I believe I heard Ryan Clark saying it as well. You gave them a lot of 3rd and manageables. Was the problem. So the problem was not necessarily 3rd downs,
first and second
downs. When you give them a third and makeable, manageable, 3rd and relatively short, makes it a whole lot easier to convert those. But the game-winning play came on a 3rd and 10, I believe.
It did. It
did.
It was
3rd and 10.
you know, a lot of things. I'm going to be anxious. This has always been a very resilient bunch.
Yeah.
But this was a tough one. It's a tough game to lose, and I'm going to be anxious to see how they bounce back from this. And you're going into a hornet's nest in Cincinnati. They're playing well. They're tied for the division lead. Ticket sales, from what I understand, are going very well. They may have a sellout at Paul Brown Stadium. That doesn't happen very often.
At least once a year, probably.
Yeah, when the Steelers come. So they're going to be fired up. You know, they have a test in front of them coming up, and you know, you gotta get your head screwed back on straight.
I you know, according to the standings, I agree with you, but Cincinnati, and it's of course is a topic for another day. Cincinnati has to prove it to me. They haven't beaten any.
Yeah, we're going to talk about that, but you know, coming into the New England game, that's what they said about the Steelers, that they hadn't beaten anybody. So you know, there's a lot of things to go around. I don't know if you were found it as distasteful as I did, and he owned up to it, but there were some coaching gaffes. Coming down the stretch.
The field goal attempt late in the game would have put the Steelers up a touchdown. The attempt that never came.
He waffled, and they got a delay of game penalty.
Right, the Steelers took a delay of game penalty, and Tomlin did own up to it. He said, "That's on me." He said, you know, with the new holder being the punter, Jeremy Kapanos, he didn't feel quite as confident. Plus the distance, it was a long field goal.
47 yards,
You don't want to set up...
that all goes into the thinking. I sort of foo-fooed the Kapanos thing. It already held for 2 successful kicks earlier.
Right, and it's not like he's never been in Pittsburgh before. He finished out last season for Danny Sepulveda as well. And a lot of people thought he should have beat him out this year.
There was talk. I remember that. You know, the other thing that sort of bothered me, and this is just getting into the realm of play calling and some other things like that. They get the ball back. I think it was how much was time left when Pittsburgh got the ball back before
with the lead?
With the lead, I'm trying to remember what that was.
7 or 8 minutes. Well, actually 4:30.
Okay, they get it back with 4:30, and
I think
Roethlisberger's pass incomplete. No, I would have run the ball because it chews up time. You stop the clock,
right?
You know,
but you know what? If David Johnson catches the ball,
that's an if. That's always the if. But you're sure of chewing up at least another 30 more seconds if you run the foot. And what did they have left on the clock at the end of the game? 8 seconds.
Well, but that's you know, that's donuts to dollars, I guess.
Well, there were more than a few
David
people
Johnson
talking about that.
should make the catch, and if he does, it's more than a 5-yard gain. It puts them in a manageable second down, where whenever they ran with Redmond on the next play, he only gained 1. You know, that
but that's not the play to running, though. The play to running was on first down.
I guess.
But that's just, you can pick apart so many different things, but when you're talking about clock management, it's important.
You know, you could make the argument they threw to the wrong tight end. You throw that to the other guy, the one who can catch.
If ifs and ands were cookies and nuts, we'd all have a nice Christmas. You know what I mean?
Exactly. But it's a loss for the Steelers. I'm not quite so sure it's as devastating as a lot of people would make it seem. You know, so you've lost both games to the Ravens. Doesn't necessarily mean that a playoff rematch would necessarily occur at M&T Bank Stadium. It could come back to Pittsburgh.
Well, a lot of things have to happen. But let's not forget, they have to make 2 West Coast trips. Now, I think Seattle's going to be... I'm talking about Baltimore.
Okay.
They have to go back out to San Diego later in the season.
Okay.
You know, so they go to Seattle, they go to San Diego. They got San Francisco coming east. Who's playing very well right now. Plus, both teams have not played the Bengals at all. They have 2 games left.
Does Baltimore play New England? You know off the top of your head?
I can't remember off the top of my head.
I'm guessing they probably do because the way they match up divisions a lot. It's usually first
but I know for sure they play San Diego at San Diego.
Yeah, and later in the year is not when you want to do that. You want to catch the North Turner teams early in the year.
So there's still a lot of football to be played. It's just it's just that you hate to let one get away when you pretty much have it almost put in your pocket.
Well, that's could be part of the problem. Maybe they were trying to tuck it away before they should have. You know, and it's incredible. I remember talking most of the game about Torrey Smith. The guy can't catch a cold.
Well, talk about a guy that went from wearing the goat horns to being the hero.
Yep.
On the play for Ray Rice, he's the one that's called for holding on the 76-yard touchdown run. He dropped 3 passes, 2 of them would have been touchdowns,
right.
And then he makes the catch.
And he, you know, the few plays before his game-winning play, he'd beaten Ike Taylor. There was no
doubt about it. And he dropped it.
Got his hands on the ball.
Now, I don't know if you saw the NBC postgame show, which I happened to be standing near a television set and watched a little bit of it. Tony Dungy had some critical comments about the way the Steelers played at the end of the ballgame defensively and what they were doing defensively. He says, you know, at the 28-yard line when they're going in, he says you almost got beat for a touchdown on Ike Taylor playing bump and run. He says, where was the over-the-top coverage? Which Ryan Clark admitted he made a mistake. He said, but that should have been, those safeties should have been back behind those guys. Never, ever in that situation let a guy get behind you without somebody back there.
But they did. That's why they're 6-3 this morning and not 7-2.
So, but there were some positive things. Roethlisberger, first time in Steelers history, a quarterback throws for 3 consecutive 300-yard games. I thought James Harrison coming back from the injury was just outstanding.
Yeah, he was all over the field. Ended up with the only 3 sacks the Steelers could get. He had 3 tackles for losses. Is that the same stat or not?
It might be.
6 quarterback hurries, 8 tackles, second on the team to Larry Foote, who also...
No, actually, I think the tackle for losses is a separate stat. That's hitting the running back behind the line of scrimmage or something.
But yeah, I mean, he gave his all, as we mentioned before we started taping. He needed one more
sack. And they couldn't get to him in that last drive. They could not get to him.
No. And you know, Joe Flacco has gotten pretty good protection throughout the year. If you remember the opening day, a lot of the discussion was about the revamped going by the by shirt tails or whatever the state of the offensive line of Baltimore. They've kind of come a long way since then. Of course, they dominated that game.
Well, coming into the game, my big thing was I still was not completely on the Flacco bandwagon. I thought after that first game that he had been a little bit pedestrian until the second half of the Arizona game when he played very well.
Well, that game against Jacksonville, they
were horrible. And I was worried about that. But now he's beaten Roethlisberger twice. Now you start thinking maybe he's getting some confidence.
Maybe. But you know what? I'll be curious to see how they do in the next couple of weeks because they put so much emphasis on beating the Steelers.
Remember what happened last time? Letdown game. They lost to Tennessee the next game.
So I mean, there's still way too much football left to be played to start doing any pecking orders as Terrell Suggs would like you to do.
Right. Well, I'm not.
By the way, he did make a heck of a play too on that interception.
He did. He hung around and he got right in the lane. And
well, he kind of looked. Read a little bit of the eye contact between Mike Wallace and Ben.
Well, hey, like him or not, Terrell Suggs is a hell of a player.
Yeah, he can play.
It's going to be interesting. I'll be interested to see how they respond to this.
Yeah.
Another chance to deal with adversity.
Oh yeah, there you go. And on the road, no less.
On the road.
That'll wrap up this edition of the 5th quarter. We'll be back later in the week with a preview of this Steelers at Cincinnati game.
The Bungles. As Byron would say.
No, we'll just call them the Bengals. Till then, see you later, and thanks for tuning in.